Resident Evil Requiem has only been out for a little over a week, and it's already been a massive success. The game reportedly sold over 5 million copies in just the first 5 days across all platforms, which is an incredible launch for the series. Fans have been loving the atmosphere, the story, and the new characters introduced in the game, and it's quickly become one of the biggest releases in the franchise in recent years. The game's combination of tense combat, clever puzzles, and cinematic boss fights really kept players on edge. And the story has sparked plenty of fan theories about what's next for the Resident Evil universe. Because of that success, it's not too surprising that rumors about additional content are already starting to appear. According to well-known Resident Evil insider Dusk Golem, a DLC expansion for Resident Evil 9 is apparently already in late development. If this turns out to be true, it could mean we won't have to wait very long before jumping back into the world of Resident Evil 9 again. So in this video, I'm going to break down everything we currently know about the rumoured DLC and what it could mean for the future of the series. According to the rumour, this DLC was actually created to help space out the release schedule between upcoming Resident Evil games. There are already reports that Capcom is working on multiple projects at the moment, including a rumoured remake of Resident Evil Code Veronica and possibly even a remake of Resident Evil 0. Because of that, the Resident Evil 9 DLC could act as something to keep fans busy while those other games are still in development. It makes sense. Capcom has been very consistent with Resident Evil releases in recent years, and they probably don't want a long gap between major entries in the franchise. One of the most interesting parts of this rumour is about who the DLC might focus on. Apparently, an earlier version of the DLC may have featured Alyssa Ashcroft as a playable character. However, according to the current information, that idea may have changed during development. Now, the main rumour is that the DLC could actually star Leon instead. Dusk Golem claims that the expansion could even include cut content that originally involved Leon, which was removed late in development of Resident Evil 9. Some of this cut content could include hidden encounters, puzzles, or new ways to approach the story that didn't make the final game. For longtime fans, this would be a great way to explore parts of the game we didn't get to see originally. If the DLC really does include this kind of content with Leon, it could feel like a completely fresh experience, even for players who already finished the game. If that ends up being true, it would definitely make the DLC even more exciting for long-term fans of the series. Another interesting detail is when the DLC might actually release. According to the rumour, it could potentially arrive as soon as the summer. One reason people think this might happen is because Resident Evil 9 amiibo figures are supposedly releasing on July 30th, and those amiibos reportedly add weapon skins and other small extras to the game. Some fans believe that these amiibos could be part of a larger marketing push for a DLC expansion, which would make the timing line up pretty well. Of course, this is still speculation, but it's definitely an interesting possibility. Personally, while the idea of playing as Leon again would be awesome, I actually really liked Grace as a character in Resident Evil 9. Her gameplay style felt really fun, and I thought her overall performance in the game was great. So part of me honestly hopes that if this DLC does happen, Grace still has some kind of role in it. That being said, Leon is Leon, and if he really is part of this DLC, I don't think many Resident Evil fans would complain about that.
Where's everyone going? Bingo?
One thing that's really interesting is how fans have been reacting to these rumours online. A lot of players seem really excited about the idea of Leon potentially returning in the DLC, especially because he's one of the most popular characters in the entire Resident Evil series. At the same time, there are also plenty of fans who want to see newer characters get more attention too. Grace in particular has become surprisingly popular since the release of the game, and a lot of players have said they'd like to see her story continue in some way. It'll be really interesting to see how Capcom balances returning favourites with the newer characters. Personally, I'm excited either way. There's so much potential for this DLC to add something fresh to the game. At the end of the day, it's important to remember that this is still just a rumour, so we should definitely take all this information with a grain of salt. But one thing that does seem very likely is that Capcom has no plans to slow down with the Resident Evil series anytime soon. With the massive success of Resident Evil 9 and the continued popularity of the franchise, it's pretty clear that more games, remakes, and possibly expansions are on the way. Even if some of these rumours don't end up being true, there's still a good chance we'll be getting plenty more Resident Evil content in the future. But for now, those are the current rumours surrounding the potential Resident Evil 9 DLC. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Would you want the DLC to focus on Leon? or would you rather see Grace return as the main character? And if any new information comes out about this DLC, I'll definitely cover it here. Thank you so much for tuning in.